Hi everyone. Today I want to discuss and address head-on an issue I've alluded to in earlier videos, and that is the racist origin and legacy of many Origipop songs. For those of you who might only know some of the more popular of the later pieces of Origipop, like Edelweiss or Singin' in the Rain, you might wonder what I'm talking about. But if we look back at some of the earlier but no less well-known songs like Dixie or Camptown Races, we can see just how truly racist they are in their lyrics and themes. So, I wanted to look today at why and how these songs were so racist, how they influenced later Origipop songs, singers, and shows, and what this all means for us today. Now, I consider Stephen Foster and his first published song, Open Thy Lattice Love, to be the beginning of the Origipop era. And while this song is not racist, many of Stephen Foster's other hits, including those that are still recognizable today, most certainly are. Let's look at perhaps his most famous songs, O Susanna, written in 1848, and Camptown Races, written in 1850. Let's review the melody to both of these, just for those who don't know which songs I'm talking about off the top of your head. On the surface, neither of these songs have terribly racist themes. They're just comic nonsense songs, but they do certainly contain racist lyrics. Camptown Races and O Susanna are both written in that stereotypical and exaggerated black dialect that we can see here. And O Susanna's lyrics also contain the N-word and the term darkies. Another famous song of Stephen Foster's is Old Folks at Home, written in 1851. In addition to containing racist terms and dialect, this song has the common racist theme present in many songs of this era of a black slave longing for his plantation. The lyrics state that the singer, presumably a slave or former slave, is still longing for the old plantation, where happy was I. And in addition to being a racist song popular in the 1850s, this song has a strong legacy that stretches even to today. Elements of the song can be found in two later, very popular pieces of American Origipop, Alexander's Ragtime Band by Irving Berlin and Swanee by George Gershwin. Both of these songs were the first big hit for their respective composers, and both still pop up occasionally in popular culture today. In addition, Old Folks at Home has been the state song of Florida since 1935, albeit with altered lyrics. So, many of Stephen Foster's early hits were obviously and explicitly racist toward African Americans, and some of these songs are still recognizable and part of our cultural consciousness even today. Now, it is true that Stephen Foster was highly impacted by the novel Uncle Tom's Cabin, and starting with his song My Old Kentucky Home Goodnight, stopped writing in black dialect and changed the themes of his songs to stop romanticizing the life of a slave. Perhaps he felt that this helped make up for these earlier songs and the hurtful stereotypes they perpetuated. And maybe this change does help absolve him from his earlier mistakes, but we'll talk more about this idea a bit later on. It is also important to mention that many of the songs Stephen Foster wrote were part of a broader style of entertainment prevalent at that time known as minstrelsy or minstrel shows. These were shows of almost all white performers dressed in blackface and performing comic skits and variety acts, dancing and singing songs such as Foster's, written in exaggerated, stereotypical black dialect. These shows, which first emerged in the 1830s and grew to become the most popular form of theater in the US by the 1840s, stereotyped African Americans as dim-witted, lazy, buffoonish, cowardly, superstitious, and happy-go-lucky. There were also multiple racist tropes such as the happy slave and the provocative wench. White people would go to these shows and laugh at these grotesque caricatures of black people and their place in society, and it all reinforced the racist ideas and stereotypes of the times and served to essentially dehumanize African Americans. And as almost all songs written for these minstrel shows contributed to this overall effect in one way or another, minstrel songs are all inherently racist simply because of this fact. And one of the most popular of all minstrel songs was Dixie. This song, also known as I Wish I Was in Dixie's Land and written in 1859 by Dan Emmett, is still well recognized today, and that in itself is extremely problematic. The lyrics again portray this idea that African Americans born into slavery in the South would pine for their plantation home. It promulgated the idea more strongly than any other minstrel song, in part due to its popularity, that slavery was a positive institution and blacks enjoyed and belonged in bondage. And this is a song that is still well known even today, and not just the melody, but also those racist lyrics. My guess is that there's a not unsubstantial number of people who know that the lyrics of the first verse start, I wish I was in the land of cotton, or that the chorus starts, then I wish I was in Dixie, hooray, hooray. Or who know the key phrase from the song, look away, look away, look away, Dixieland. Which again is intended to convey the desire of the singer to look towards the South, where he wishes he could be. As a result, this song has a racist legacy that has lasted much longer than the minstrel shows for which it was written. Minstrel shows actually began to decline in popularity around the turn of the 20th century due to the rise of vaudeville. However, the legacy of minstrelsy continued well into the 1900s. Even though professional minstrel shows had ended by around 1910, many songs during this era were still being written in the style of minstrel songs. These songs were referred to as coon songs, and a simple search will yield hundreds of these songs written in the first few decades of the 20th century that have lyrics written in the stereotypical black dialect, promote racist tropes about black people and black culture, and feature disgusting caricatures of black people on the cover of the sheet music. All of this is the direct legacy of earlier minstrel shows and shows how racist ideas continued to be promoted to people through the songs of this era. And minstrel shows, or even just a blackface performance, were also portrayed in film for decades after the decline of minstrelsy. The hit 1927 film, The Jazz Singer, considered the first talkie, was all about a man who performs in blackface, and the iconic final scene from the film is a song performed by Al Jolson in blackface. And blackface continued to be seen in films into the 40s and 50s, and was even employed by famous actors who are still well known today. Actors that performed in blackface include Fred Astaire in 1936's Swing Time, Bing Crosby in 1940's Holiday Inn, and Judy Garland in 1938's Everybody Sing, 1939's Babes in Arms, and 1941's Babes on Broadway. These are actors we still know and love currently, and whose films we watch, and who we revere enough for making biopics about them, even if, in the case of Fred Astaire, they explicitly asked us not to. And these movies in which they perform in blackface are still fairly popular amongst fans of old musicals and can still be easily seen and purchased. There were also racist songs that were still being written during this time as well that followed in the tradition of earlier minstrel songs, and some have had a lasting impact that affect us even today. One example of this is the song That's Why Darkies Were Born. This song, written in 1931 by Ray Henderson and Lou Brown, has actually been in the news recently. One of the first big hit recordings of this song was done by Kate Smith, a famous singer in the 30s and 40s, who also had a big hit with God Bless America in 1939. Many years later, Smith's rendition of God Bless America was regularly played at Philadelphia Flyers and New York Yankees games until 2019, when I guess people realized that she had also sung this racist song. As a result, the Yankees and Flyers stopped playing her version of God Bless America at their games, and the Flyers even took down a statue of Smith that they had erected in 1987. Now, I don't want to get into a discussion about whether she should be canceled or not over this song, but this just serves as another example of the way these old songs affect us today. And I also want to contrast her treatment with that of some of the other famous performers I mentioned earlier. Fred Astaire, Bing Crosby, and Judy Garland are all household names who have not seen the same type of backlash as she has, even though they actually appeared in blackface, again, in the case of Judy Garland, 3 times. There's also a statue of Bing Crosby at Gonzaga University in Washington. Judy Garland just had a new biopic made about her in 2019, and Fred Astaire is going to have one soon, again, even though he never wanted one to be made about him. Again, I'm not saying they should be canceled, I'm just wondering if perhaps we're not applying our standards evenly or equally. Anyways, while most of the racist songs of this era had African Americans as their focus, there were also songs that were racist toward other groups as well, such as Chinese people, Middle Easterners, and especially those of Jewish descent. Some examples of these include Sadie Salome Go Home from 1909 and Cohen Owes Me $97 from 1915, both of which were written by Irving Berlin and are examples of songs in the Jew-face tradition. Jew-face, like blackface, referred to performances which featured Jewish stereotypes and Yiddish dialect. Despite the negative stereotypes these songs and shows perpetuated, many of the producers and consumers of Jew-face were actually Jewish, like Irving Berlin himself. While many of these songs have not necessarily had the long-lasting impact as some of the other songs we've discussed have, and were not nearly as plentiful as songs with racist ideas about black people, they simply serve to further illustrate the racist nature of many of the songs written during this era. Okay, so we've looked at a lot of these old songs and recognized that many of them had racist lyrics and/or themes, mostly toward African Americans, but also other ethnic groups as well. So what does this all mean for us? Are we allowed to listen to these songs today? Or watch the movies that have these songs or other racist content, such as portrayals of blackface? Or do we have to avoid them completely? Well, I'm sure that it would depend on personal preference, but as for me, I have a few ideas and guidelines I try to follow. My thoughts are based on the idea that such racist language is unacceptable to sing out loud, and even listening to such lyrics makes me feel uncomfortable. However, when it comes to the music, I don't believe we should throw the baby out with the bathwater. I feel that the melody of these songs shouldn't be a problem to listen to, as long as the lyrics are altered. I also feel like the situation with Origipop songs is a bit different than modern songs. Unlike modern artists who might still be alive and profit from our listening to their songs, these old composers are all dead, and so it's not like we're giving them money for their racist songs. I also feel strongly that people can always change and become better and work to atone for past mistakes. In the case of Stephen Foster and Irving Berlin with Puttin' on the Ritz, for example, who later changed some of their songs when they realized that what they'd written in the past was wrong, I feel that I'm willing to accept and support that. And it's also important to realize that they lived in a very different world than us, so the fact that it might have taken them longer to realize what they were doing is wrong is perhaps somewhat understandable, even if not excusable. Essentially, I feel that as long as the lyrics of a song have been changed to remove racist language and any racist themes or ideas, it should be acceptable to listen to and sing such songs. However, there are some out there, including others who post on YouTube, that choose to sing these songs complete with racist terms and themes under the guise of historical accuracy. I disagree with this idea completely. These songs in their original state with their racist lyrics are not at risk of being lost. They are all held in physical and digital collections at a number of non-profit institutions, usually universities. If we choose not to sing the original lyrics, we're not destroying history or anything like that. If people want to learn about these old racist songs and the content they contain, they can easily do so. I also want to draw a distinction between analyzing and explaining these racist lyrics and just singing them without any context. When I did my video on Puttin' on the Ritz, I went over the original racist lyrics and explained their history and why they were problematic. But I see this as an academic exercise to better understand the complicated history of this song and offer context for listeners who might hear the different versions and wonder why they were written. I think this is more acceptable and worthwhile than just singing racist lyrics or including them in sheet music without any context. So, when I come across a song with racist lyrics that I want to sing or include in a songbook that I'm making, I simply change them. This is easiest when the song only has a few racist terms or is written in the stereotypical black dialect. For example, the song Hello My Baby has both of these, and when I sing it and when I put it into my Main Street songbook, I simply replace the black dialect with normal wording and replace the word coon with chap. For me, this solves the issue. I don't want to sing these racist words or spread them around in a songbook I've created, so this is my solution. However, it is harder for songs with racist ideas and themes. For example, I really like the song Dixie, the melody, obviously not the lyrics. The melody is just really catchy and fun, but I can't and won't sing those lyrics. So, I've tried to rewrite the lyrics so that the song becomes an anti-racist song that fights against the racist ideas propagated by the original. Unfortunately, I'm not much of a lyricist. I'm too literal and not poetic enough. But that's what I'm trying to do for some of these other more difficult songs. When it comes to listening to these songs, I try to find versions with updated lyrics, like the later version of Puttin' on the Ritz instead of the earlier one. But when it comes to movies with racist songs and imagery, including blackface, this can be a bit harder. There are some versions of these old films which have these parts edited out of them. For example, some TV broadcasts of Holiday Inn simply cut the blackface number. The downside of this is that sometimes this affects the plot or pacing of the film. But if it doesn't do that, it seems like that might be an acceptable solution for some. Again, as long as the original version of a film is maintained for historical accuracy, changes to it to remove questionable content for more casual viewing is just fine. So there you have it. While I love this old music, I recognize that many of it has roots in our racist past, and some of the more problematic aspects of these songs can affect us even today. While ultimately it is up to us to decide what we are comfortable with in terms of listening to, singing, and watching portrayals of these old songs, I would recommend trying to remove the racist terms and themes from as many of these old songs as best as possible, so as to be able to enjoy some of Origipop's most catchy tunes, while at the same time distancing them from the racist ideas they used to promote. Thanks for watching.